Hey, thanks for tuning in the channel, guys. My name is Jake. Welcome you. I do apologize that I don't have a fancy intro or anything. I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I barely ever put any videos up. Tonight I'm going to bring you my Child Alara deck. Hopefully you find it through your searches of YouTube, and hopefully you like it. I'd like some comments, feedback on what your opinion on it is. I'm going to start by saying that this is a competitive 1v1 EDH deck. The deck has no problem competing in a pod, and it bounces back from pretty much anything. This is not the cheaper version of Child of Alara. This is not a budget-friendly build. I didn't have the budget in mind when I started building this EDH deck, so it has sort of gotten a little bit more expensive. And you'll see as we go through the deck what I'm talking about. Said all that, I'm going to go through the deck a little bit differently than most of the people that do the reviews. I'm going to go through the lands first, like always, and then I will go through the deck by CMC, converted mana cost. I'm going to start at 1 and go to the highest converted mana cost. So let's get right into it. Child of Alara. One of each of the 5 colors for a 6/6 trample. When it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, when it dies, basically. Destroy all non-land permanents that can't be regenerated. Quite a pesky commander, but an amazing one. Basic lands that we run one of each: forest, swamp, plains, island, and mountain. And these are the battle for Zendikar, just because I think they're pretty. Our fetch lands: Flooded Strand, Polluted Delta, Windspread Heath, and Bloodstained Mire. And Wooded Hills, I apologize. I don't have the Zendikar fetches quite yet. They're a little pricey. I do have... I'm working a budget in for them. I will eventually have them. Shocklands. Stomping Ground. Overgrown Tomb. Temple Garden. Blood Crypt. Steam Vents. Godless Shrine. Breeding Pool. Sacred Foundry. Hallowed Fountain. And Watery Grave. All 10 of the Shocklands. We're going to get into the all-color lands. Some of the staple all-color lands, especially if you're playing 5 colors. Reflecting Pool, Command Tower, City of Brass, and Mana Confluence. I do play 2 manlands in this deck. There was more manlands in the build, but they've been phased out as the deck has evolved. Stirring Wildwood has stayed simply because it's green-white, a couple of the very important colors in Commander, and it has reach, and it's a pretty big reach too. It can swat down some generals. Derevi is actually a general in my play group, and with this on the battlefield, Derevi has to be careful. Even though he only ever costs 4, I can get him off the battlefield. And Raging Ravine. He gets big. I don't hardly ever attack with this guy, but he's a great utility land. I have killed people with him before, but he just stands the test of time. Now the mana fixing lands that I play in the deck is Orborg. This makes all lands swamps. It is an alternative language version, but it turns all lands on the battlefield, period, into swamps, in addition to the other types. Hinterland Harbor, Buddy Land. I do play 2 Vivids. This one's Vivid Grove. I play it because it's shiny. And it's also, in case you don't know, this gets around a few other cards in Commander that are kind of pesky. Murmuring Balsk, because it has that little word right there. It's a forest card, which means with my forest fetches, I can fetch it and get 3 colors if I need them. My other Vivid land, Vivid Marsh. And now for my utility lands. What deck in Commander doesn't play some kind of land that destroys another one? My personal choice is Strip Mine, because there's no paying, there's no other drawbacks, there's no stipulations. It just straight destroys a land. Kessig Wolfrun. If you're playing red-green and you don't play this land, I don't sure I understand your reasoning. This is a great land. It turns any creature deadly in the late game. And it also can just amplify a commander. And you can also use this as a politic card because it says target creature, not your creature. So, if you really don't want a player in the game anymore, or, somebody didn't go your way, you can definitely pump somebody that's attacking or get that creature through whatever you need to do. This is a great land. I love it. Child deck, of course, high market. It's got to be in the deck. A 0 stipulation, just play the land. You can sack your commander and blow the board up, and you still have your sack engine for whenever you get child back from the yard. Maze of Ith. I don't count this really as a land. I do play 36 lands total, including this one. This deck kind of plays not slow. It can win out of nowhere, but you definitely have to have Maze of Ith in your deck if you're playing a 5-color deck, because if you need a few turns, you got to stop a couple dangerous attacks. This is the land to go for. I prefer this over Mystifying Maze because, again, this has no stipulation, and with Orborg it does produce a mana. Alchemist's Refuge. Again, another must. I've been a huge advocate of this land since it was printed. It's very, very important that I can play my things at the end of the turn, because it gives me the opportunity to leave my mana back to interact, and then I can put the permanents or whatever I need to on the battlefield. Now we're going to get into the cards of the deck. We're going to start with CMC 1, and we're going to work our way up. Sierra Ascendant, because what commander deck that plays white doesn't play Sierra Ascendant if they have the opportunity to? You drop this guy on turn 1 or turn 2 in 1v1, and the game's pretty much over. Unless they have a removal card in hand that can deal over 6 damage or exile, he will definitely snuff a guy down to a low amount of life really fast. Gamble. This deck, you'll see as we go through, the theme is I really don't care about having a discard or anything. This just gets the card into play, and when I mean into play, it gets it into an area in which I can interact with the card, in my hand, graveyard, or on the battlefield. So this is a very good card. I love Gamble. It has bit me in the butt a couple times, but if you turn 1, need an extra land or something like that, you can Gamble it to your hand and potentially... it's just a really good card. I love it. Vincian Seer. This is one of our sack engines. You'll see as I go through the deck. Vincian Seer is just one of many sack engines in the deck. I think there's only like 4 or 5 now. But this is a combo-based deck. Enough said about Vincian Seer. Transverse the Alton World. Delirium is not hard to turn on with our deck. We turn Delirium on very quickly and very early. So paying 1 mana to go get a creature or a land from our deck is very good. It's basically a green demonic tutor if you have Delirium. Well, for creature lands, of course. Path to Exile, no explanation needed there. Soul Ring, no explanation needed there. Entomb, again, it's sort of like with Gamble, except this can help us combo off and win the game. Entomb, I just have to get it into my range in which I can touch the card. Graveyard, hand, battlefield, etc. In this instance, it's the graveyard. Sensei's Divining Top. Really enough said. This is a really broken card. I think it needs to be banned in EDH, but it's not. So since it's overwhelmingly powerful, it's hard to destroy, and it basically extends your hand by 3 cards for 1 mana. And you get to... It's a ridiculous card. If I turn 1 Sierra Ascendant or turn 1 Top, I almost always win the game. Enlightened Tutor. We do play a few artifacts on our deck, one of them being the overpowered Top. We also play a couple enchantments, so this is always good. Reanimate. 1 mana, get a dude back from a graveyard. Any graveyard. It's an amazing card. If you kill a fatty, you can get it right back. Most of the time I use this for my stuff because I'm rocking the most powerful things in the game. It's at almost all points in the game. Swords of Plowshare, straight exile. My deck doesn't really care about giving somebody life because your life total goes away in a turn with this deck. The 2-drops, Phantasmal Image. It's a copy creature. That's really why he's in the deck. He can be used to reiterate with my other combo, and as I'll get to, I'll explain back the image, but very good. Vexing Shusher. This is one of my favorite cards ever printed in Magic. Me as a player in Magic, I absolutely hate counter spells. Nothing annoys me more than a counter spell, so I have courted Vexing Shusher to the battlefield to save 1 spell. And then on top of it, if you are playing against those mono-blue players or blue-green players or heavy counter decks, they have to answer Shusher, or I'm just going to cast my spells, and they're not going to be able to do anything about it. Gilded Drake. took me a very long time to get this one. They're actually very hard to find. Gilded Drake is a house. Oh, you played, if your opponent plays a big threat or a dangerous creature, I can take it from them and give you a 3/3 flyer that I don't really have any problem killing. Altar of Dementia. This is one of my kill outlets in many ways. This mills players to death. If once you establish Infinite Lock, the Moira, Kitchen Finks, or Body Double Revelark, or Sun Titan and Animate Dead, it's ridiculous. A lot of times I use this to mill myself to get the cards that I want into the graveyard to where I can interact with them and win the game faster. Shattering Blow. This card's been in my deck since, for a long time. Everybody in the group figured out that Child of Alara doesn't like Darksteel Forge, so I started playing Shattering Blow, and then over the time, as the Darksteel Forge has vanished, Shattering Blow stood the test because a lot of people play artifacts in Commander, and this just straight exiles it. Playing blue in a deck, obviously a Snapcaster Mage, touchback on all of our kill spells, our tutors, or anything. Snapcaster Mage can touch it. Scavenging Ooze, also self-explanatory. If you're playing green, you're playing a Scavenging Ooze. If you're not, you're wrong. He can interact with other people's graveyards and mine as well. If I get Scavenging Ooze after I've blown Child up, I can exile it and send it back to my command zone for recast. So this is a great utility with Child of Alara. Animate Dead. Again, another one of these cards. You get to pick a card from a graveyard. I like the reanimation spells that say a graveyard because I like playing with other people's cards too. Moira, you can sort of see where this is slowly edging into. Kitchen Finks and Redcap are in the deck. If you establish this with a sack engine like Altar of Dementia, Redcap can not only kill somebody, but Altar of Dementia will mill them out on top of it, or you can deal damage to one player while milling the other. Really good card. Also, if you play against an Infect Commander deck, courting her to the battlefield or searching for her sort of slows them down, and then with reanimation, you can keep her on the battlefield for a prolonged period of time. Demonic Tutor, staple of black. If you're playing black, you're playing Demonic Tutor. Simple. Search your library for any card, put it in your hand. Done. Shuffle your library afterwards. Does not reveal the card. Amazing. Baleful Strix. 2 for a 1/1 flying death touch that draws you a card. Cantrip on top of a body that kills something. And I can infinite loop this with other combos and draw my library out. Another sack engine, Cartel Aristocrat. This one can give itself protection, so if they try and kill it, I can protect it. Abrupt Decay, this is kind of one of the weaker cards. I do like it, though, because it's a cheaper card, and it just straight destroys stuff and says it can't be regenerated, and it can't be sort of wavered away. Altar of Dementia, or Ashnod's Altar, another sack engine. This one gives us infinite mana. We don't really care about that. It is just a sack engine at 3. If we ever do get infinite mana, it's nice, but we don't really go for that. We go for the game. Court of Calling, again, staple of green. If you're playing green in a deck, you kind of have to be playing Court of Calling. Put some dorks on the battlefield, and makes this cheaper, and it's just any creature from your deck, whatever convenience you need. Beseech the Queen. Another tutor effect in the deck. This one does have a stipulation. You do have to reveal it, and on top of it, it's you search your library for a card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control. Reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. And it's got this hybrid cost up here. So it's a tutor that doesn't demand black mana necessarily, but if I don't pay black for it, it costs me 6 mana instead of 3. So I can almost always cast this card no matter what my battlefield looks like. Oblation. The Commander Tuck rule did go away, but this is still very good for dealing with indestructible, like Blightsteel Colossuses, Eldorazzi's, pesky enchantments. It's very good. You can't touch lands with it, unfortunately, but it does just help if somebody establishes a combo on the board. You take a piece away and put it back in their deck. It's a really nice card. Deceiver Exarch. Splinter Twin is in the deck. I play a lot of combos in this deck. Spoiler alert. Really good card, and you can loop him indefinitely with body double Rev Arc to have infinite mana. If you don't have like a sack engine that mills or a sack engine that generates you mana with Deceiver, I have infinite mana of all 5 colors. Eldritch Evolution. This is a new add to this deck. I absolutely love this card. I think it's extremely underrated, and I think all Child decks should be playing it. So basically, you cast Child, and you sack Child, and not only does the board go boom, but a resolution of the effect of boom, you end up with a creature with CMC 8 or less. This card is ridiculous. It does exile, so you're only getting 1 use out of it a game, unless you put stuff like Twin Cast on it or something like that. But this is an amazing card. A lot of times I use this and I'll go Eldritch Evolution on Child or Solemn, go into Sun Titan or a Consecrated Sphinx. It's a really powerful card. Ashiok, Nightmare Weaver. Again, like I said, my pods are competitive, so there are combos in my pods, and there are some cards in my pod that are just annoying to deal with. Ashiok exiles card from the top. She automatically just straight exiles the combo pieces out of the game. Amazing Planeswalker. Plus, if I happen to nab a decent creature, I can put it on the battlefield. That has won me games before. And the last effect I don't hardly ever get to use. Most of the time she dies after the first activation or two. I can reiterate her with Sun Titan or E-Witness, of course, but very powerful Planeswalker. Baby Jace, again, playing blue. This guy's a staple. A lot of times, it's a tick up and then tick him down 3 turns and then tick him back up. And he's sort of my politic card. If I'm a little off mana splash or something like that, I'll play Jace and tick him up, because if everybody in the pod is drawing cards, everybody's happy. When it's 1v1, it's 3 for 3 cards. Defend him and I get 3 cards out of him, and if he dies before then, oh well. Pernicious Deed, an amazing enchantment. It's basically 3 for destroy all the tokens on the battlefield, or, destroy everything else that, however much mana I can pump into it. Really powerful. I've tried to take it out of the deck, but it's been in here since I built it. Awesome card. Dak Faden. This is another recent addition in the past few weeks. He is a draw discard engine for me, which playing from the yard is very powerful. On top of that, I can just straight take an artifact. I've emblemed him once, but it didn't do me any good. Most of the stuff in my deck that targets, destroys, exiles, or I gain control of it. Anyway, so his last ability is never really that big. It's always the first 2. I really like his draw 2, discard 2. His +1 for Faithless Looting, essentially. And he comes back with Sun Titan. Naya Charm. This is an instant speed Eternal Witness. It also just deals 3 damage or taps all creatures target player controls. For instance, if somebody says Triumph of the Hordes, I'm going to kill somebody. You say no, tap your dudes, Triumph fizzles next turn. Or you can instant speed return a card from your graveyard. Great card. D-tutor, land, go, instep, get my D-tutor back. Eternal Witness, green staple, enough said. 2 green, 1 other for 2/1. ETBs, you get a card back from your graveyard to your hand. Anguished Unmaking, 1 black, 1 white, 1 other, instant speed, exile target non-land permanent, you lose 3 life. Awesome card, instant speed, gets rid of the nasty things in the game. Can't touch. There's some things that it doesn't matter if this touches, but my theme is I like to exile things. I don't want them to go to the yard if they're being played against me, because then they can be used again. Vindicate. This is just 3 for destroy target permanent. This also catches lands, so I'm not too upset about it being sorcery speed. Awesome card. Corrosion Grip. Yeah, that split second thing right there. Stops opposing Splinter Twin combos, stops Bear Umbra Hellkite Charger combos, and it does just straight destroy artifact or enchantment. They can't tap it for mana. Nothing. Period. Well, no, they can tap it for mana, but a lot of times it's things like Mimic Vat and things of that nature that this touches. Mimic Vat, Swords, Batter Skull, so they can't return the Batter Skull to their hand. Very good card. Oh, and I do have a player in my pod, a good friend of mine, that he plays Shroom as a commander deck, so this just shuts Shroom down. It's 1/3 to destroy his commander. Chaos Warp. Again, they took the tuck rule away, but here's the thing. If you hit a commander with this and they send it to command zone, they don't get the permanent. So this is just 3 for your commander goes away, or you put it in your library. So it's a win-win situation. You get rid of the commander, or, if you need to destroy something of your own to put it back in your deck to keep it from being exiled, great card. Kitchen Finks, again, this is one of the weaker cards in the deck. I do have an infinite life loop, but not overly concerned with doing this. He ETBs gain 2. Persist, comes back, gain 2 more. Nothing amazing. Gleneldra Archmage. She is a persist counter. If you put her and Malira on the battlefield, people hate you. She can only counter non-creature spells, but that's most of the things that people play in Commander unless they're playing an aggro deck. And aggro decks against this deck typically don't win because I have a board wipe on a stick. Enough about Gleneldra. Disciple of Bolas. Again, this is I cast Child, and you didn't want to kill it. So my turn, I'm just going to kill it, gain 6 life, and draw 6 cards, and destroy everything. And it gives me cards to pitch to the bin to do broken things with. I really like Disciple of Bolas, and he comes back with Revart. Generic can't be countered, board wipe, Supreme Verdict. They can be regenerated off of this, but this can't be countered. Again, I don't like counter spells that much. I do play Gleneldra, but it's non-creatures. It's got a stipulation. Another board wipe, Damnation. Destroy all creatures. They can't be regenerated. Great card. I feel like it is kind of a staple for black EDH decks, but Damnations are $70. At the time of this filming, they were $70. So I can understand players not having one of these. Again, Murderous Redcap. This goes back to Malira. Redcap just... You can kill somebody with him with Malira or without him. If you have Revart Body Double established, you can reiterate him over to just kill them. Copy, except this one can copy an artifact. Phyrexian Metamorph, I think he's a staple of blue. He's a copy creature. He's very good. He can also just... He can help you help your opponent hate you, if that makes sense. Because if they know you've got him in your hand or you've already played him and you can bounce him or anything like that, or he's in your yard, you can reanimate him, they really play a little bit carefully because they don't want to put out that powerful artifact or anything like that for me to copy. Utter End, again, we stick with the Exile theme, and this is just a pretty one. Black, white, 2 other, instant speed, exile target non-land permanent. Restoration Angel. Everybody knows what this is. It's not really a staple in white, it's situational, but this does blink out some of my combo pieces out from underneath exile spells or bounce spells or destroy effects, and just keeps them in the game for me to win the game. Also very good with Sun Titan. Armageddon, because who doesn't like destroying all the lands? I do play against a few players that have land destruction style decks, and 9 times out of 10, I'll just do it better. I'll get them all. And I'll come back to Armageddon because there's a card that goes with this that a lot of people don't pay any attention to. Solemn Simulacrum, Sad Robot. He's pretty self-explanatory. He's just mana fixing. He also combos with Body Double Revark, and he draws you a card. And he's just all around a great creature for EDH. He should be a staple in almost every EDH deck. Clever Impersonator, again, copy effect, except he copies any non-land permanent on the battlefield. He's got his own uniqueness to him, just like the artifact copy, except I think he's just a little bit better, except he does have that mandatory 2 blue, but you can bounce him in and out still. This is the card I was talking about with Armageddon. Face Reward. Players will hate you. This is almost an auto concession against people. You float 8 mana, 2 white and 6 others. Armageddon. Lands go to the graveyard. Face Reward. You guys just lost all your lands, and I just got all mine back. Really awesome combo. It's just a 2-card combo, and it's sort of a soft lock, but it's very powerful. Again, I played Deceiver Exarch. I have a Splinter Twin. Not necessarily limited to Splinter Twin, because this is awesome. You can put it on any creature and really make people hate you. Venser Shaped Savant. He is a card. If I get him online with Body Double Revark and Sack Engine, you can notice that a lot of the creatures in this deck revolve around that Sack Engine, but they also have great utility. If this is established in Body Double Revark with a Sack Engine, you will never play another thing in the game of Magic. because he doesn't counter. He just puts it back in your hand. So in response to the spell, I return all your lands, and then I return the spell to your hand. He is broken. I return all of your permanents. You never win whenever I establish this. I can stall if I don't have the game. It's ridiculous. A lot of people, this was an auto concession, and there's a reason he's $20. Primal Command, because I do like playing from my graveyard, but sometimes I've got to put my yard back in my deck to keep from decking myself. I go through this a lot, and if I establish God mode with Sun Titan, it's really hard for people to beat this. On top of it, it's got utility. You get to search for a creature, so it's a tutor effect. You can gain 7 life, which I almost never use. You can make target player shuffle his or her graveyard into his or her library, which is very good because if you have another player playing from the yard, you can make them start their process all over again. But a lot of times I use that on myself. And then you can put and then I went through that. You can search for a creature card. Very awesome. Staple in green. Here we go. Here's the 2 creatures I was talking about. Body Double Revelark. If Revelark is in your graveyard, and you play Body Double, copying Revelark, for those of you that don't know this, I've seen a lot of people playing Revelark, but they're not playing the Body Double, so I don't understand it. If Revelark is in your graveyard, and you play Body Double, copying Revelark in your graveyard, and then you sack Body Double, it triggers Revelark's ability for return 2 creatures, up to 2 creature cards with the power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Body Double has no power and toughness, and he's in the yard when this ability triggers. So you target him, and we'll just use the Savant as an example. So I've got a sack engine sitting on the board, this in the yard. Sack the Body Double, sack the Savant, trigger Revelark. These 2 guys come back. He comes back as a copy of Revelark, and now you no longer play the game of Magic. And it's an infinite lock. Once this kicks off, it's damn near impossible to stop. You've got to have split second, or you've got to... really, that's the only thing that stops this once it's established. You have to have split second. Because in response to your target, I'm just going to do it again. I'm going to sack them again. Awesome combination of cards, very powerful, hard to beat. A lot of people that I play against fear this combo. And then I end up killing them with something else. But this is the go-to because it's so easy to establish and it's so dangerous. This is a Seedborn Muse. It's in French. It's 5 for a 2/4, and this says you untap all of your permanents on each other player's untap step. So this is basically a neutered version of the older version of Prophet of Crufix, but since Prophet got banned, got to go with the Seedborn Muse. Moldrifter, again, sticking with that theme of 2 or less, established Body Double Revelark. He also does just 3 for a Divination, and he's in the yard then for me to already manipulate him. I can use him to draw my library. And then on the end step, discard my hand, and you die. My last 3 cards, 6 drops. 2 of them 6 drops, and 1 of them's expensive. Consecrated Sphinx. This guy's $25, so I don't expect a lot of people to be playing him, but he is an amazing Sphinx. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2 cards. If there's anybody ever dumb enough to clone this guy, the 2 players that have the Sphinxes can go infinite and draw their library. Yes, this guy needs to be banned in Commander. He's very powerful. He's got a big butt. He's an awesome card. Now, once he hits the yard, I've almost always got to reanimate him, or return him and then recast him. So he's kind of hard to keep on the battlefield because everybody either wants to clone him, kill him, take him, exile him. Very powerful Sphinx. The other one, I think you heard me mention it, Sun Titan. Sun Titan is a white staple in EDH if you're playing permanents with converted mana cost 3 or less in your deck. And you're playing lands, so that fits the bill. Sun Titan's a really great Titan. He's one of the most played Titans in EDH, I believe. He returns Pernicious Deeds, Eternal Witness, all of my sack engines. He returns Scavenging Ooze, lands, an amazing. Also, just a quick, I'm going to hide that last card, and then we're going to go back, because I'm going to show an interaction that I don't think a lot of people know exists. Altar of Dementia, and wherever it may be. There it is. This is what I was talking about. And I killed my cousin with this. He's in my play group. You need 4 mana to do this, guys. You get Sun Titan into your yard with a turn 1 Entomb. Turn 3 and 4, you dirtle and play your lands, interact with a couple spells, and then on your turn 4, or if you turn 1 Soul Ring and then turn 2 Entomb, now you're doing it on turn 3, get Sun Titan in the bin, Altar of Dementia comes on the battlefield. And then you play Animate Dead, targeting Sun Titan. When Sun Titan hits the battlefield, his ability triggers. In response to that trigger, sack Sun Titan to make a player put the top 6 cards of the library into the graveyard. And then Animate Dead goes to the graveyard. That Sun Titan ability triggers, you target Animate Dead. Animate Dead grabs Sun Titan. He ETB triggers, and you rinse and repeat. It's a 3-card combo in black and white. And a lot of people don't know about this. I see a lot of people not playing this, but it's really powerful. And the last card, this was a recent addition with the release of Eldritch Moon. I've had a couple of those ads, and this one is, in fact, Emrakul, the Promised End. He's not infinite, but sometimes just being able to play an opponent's turn is enough to kill them. Because almost more times than not, I cast their commander, use either an exile spell in my hand or an exile spell in their hand, and take their commander out of the game for the rest of the game. He, in case you don't know what he does, it says Emrakul the Promised End costs 1 less to cast for each card type among cards in your graveyard. It is your graveyard. I have no problem putting cards in my graveyard. A lot of times I'm discarding them to the yard. I think the cheapest I can ever get him is 7 or 8. I think it's 7. When you cast him on the stack, you gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. After that, that player takes an additional turn. So you take their turn. You make their decisions. You decide where their cards go. Meaning, if you path to exile their commander on their turn, you can send him to exile and not have to deal with their commander ever again. He also has Flying, Trample, and Protection from Instants. I can't tell you how many times people have tried to swords him, path him, anguished unmaking him, utter end him. He is ridiculous, guys. And with that, that's pretty much the wrap-up of my EDH deck. It's not the cheapest way that you can build this deck by far. It's probably one of the more expensive versions, shy of buying the original dual lands and all 10 fetches, and but this deck bounces back from almost anything. I've seen turn 4, turn 5 Armageddons, and I still win. I've seen other people playing my deck that don't even play it that much, and they get Armageddon and they still come back and win. But if you would please, like,